Hey everybody, good morning or good afternoon, good whatever time it is right now. That seems nice and mellow. So, today we're going to go ahead and not finish all of the accessibility knowledge we'll ever need, but we're going to go ahead and do the second half of um the second half of the accessibility course here in Free Code Camp. This is going to be a nice, mellow class today. Oh, good morning, lovely. Or hello, lovely. I don't know what time it is there. This is going to be a nice, short one, specifically designed so that you can get caught up on your homework if you need to. No pressure. So let's go ahead and take a look at accessible date pickers. Dates, yeah, I don't want to tell you what's going to make you unhappy in programming, but dates and time zones are pretty well designed to make you unhappy, right? So, and especially if you're using assistive technology. So, trying to figure out what time or what date someone means can be hard enough already. If you're, for example, using a screen reader, trying to figure out what text on here is a date can be really, really stressful. Luckily, semantic HTML, and we remember semantic HTML, it's just HTML that carries this extra meaning. So, hi, oh, good morning, lovely. So we're going to use and good afternoon as well. Semantic HTML has given us a fix for this, a way to add a context clue that says, hey, this thing I'm saying right here is a date. Yeah. And we're going to do that one in a second. But let's find a date picker first. So forms often include an input field. We've learned all about that in the HTML part. And we've learned that there's text and submit input types. We've done that before. But HTML introduced the date field. So this much more detailed, much more specific way to say, hey, this is what's going on. Oh, yeah. So we're going to remember that our big rule for writing good, semantic HTML is we always want to try and use am I missing the 12th one? Did we not do the radio buttons one last time? We can go back and review that. I thought I had done that, but maybe we haven't. Do we think we didn't do radio buttons last time? Yeah, well, just in case, let's go back and look at it. Sorry, maybe I'm getting a little bit wobbly. And review's never going to hurt us. So remember how we learned about the for field when we're looking at text inputs? We've got a really similar thing for radio buttons. So radio buttons, we can wrap them in a field set element. And what field set does is let's make this a little bigger so we can see what we're talking about. So do you see where we've got this set of radio buttons? What level ninja are you? Newbie, kitten, developing student, and master. These 3 radio buttons are all part of the same question. But for somebody using assistive technology, these might be like, what level ninja are you? How do I know what radio button goes to what question? And what we do here is we use the field set tag. And the field set tag says, hey, everything within this field set element is part of the same question. We know what's going on here. It's all cool. Yeah. So let's go ahead and have a look what that looks like. And then the legend tag provides a description for the grouping. So you say, cool, we're going to put this in a field set. We're going to put this whole big question, what level ninja are you? And these 3 options are going to go inside a field set tag so that we're better able to tell somebody using a screen reader, hey, this is all one question. And then we're going to use the legend tag so that somebody using a screen reader gets the description for the grouping. Yeah, we've got this. But here it's saying, you know what? You don't have to use field set and the legend tag when the choices are super self-explanatory, maybe like gender selection. And I'm always really careful to point out that I don't like radio buttons for gender selection. Folks have a whole bunch of different ways they express their gender. If you must ask for gender, and I think, do you have to? If you must ask someone for their gender, these days I kind of like an empty text field, like, hey, what's your gender? Get as weird as you like. The best one I've seen is folks just replying, no, thank you. And I assume they mean no, thank you to answering the question, but no, thank you to the concept of gender is also such an exciting point. So, oh, good morning, teddy bear. Or hello. I'm not sure what time it is. I'm very, very caught up in it being morning here in my head. So, we're going to change our div. And it's really easy too. Here we go. It's really easy to write everything as divs, but here we've got something more specific. Oh, if we want to spell it right, we say, well, this div is really a field set. A div is so wonderfully. Oh, here we go. Oh, good. Hello. Field set. So divs are sort of the generic empty box we can use. And here, we don't want to use that empty box. We say, hey, this is a group of radio buttons. We got this. This is cool. And now we're going to come up here again, because here we've got this this paragraph element saying, hey, this is describing this. And I say, well, if this is telling me what this question's about, let's turn this into a legend. That's not going to impact how it looks. Oh, I mean, it does group them together, which is quite nice, doesn't it? It's not going to impact the text being available for folks who aren't using assistive technology. But for folks who are, they're going to get this question. What level ninja are you? Newbie? What level ninja are you? Intermediate? They're going to get that connected to each radio element so that they don't wander. So the sort of semantic meaning doesn't wander away. Oh, we're 55% the way done. Everything's fine. We're now going to add an accessible date picker. Date. Look at this. Preferred date submit. Bam. I don't like it. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help me. It definitely doesn't help somebody using assistive technology. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. And this is a really, really interesting point. We've talked a little bit about browser compatibility in the past. And we've also talked about how a lot of HTML and a lot of CSS, a lot of web development, because you're web developers now, is designed to fail gracefully. Yeah. So if someone's using a browser that doesn't recognize this date field, it's just going to default to to text. And this one's really helpful. So if you do that, include the expected format in the label or placeholder text just in case. Expected date format, right? And many of you who are in different regions will be like, well, what's the big deal? Why do I need a date format? The ISO, the International Standards Organization, likes you to write it year, month, day. Okay, well, nobody in the real world actually does that, do we? Americans, we like to write it. Oh gosh, do we do month, day, year? I bet we do, don't we? I've been out of the States for so long, I don't even purely remember. And here in most of Europe, all of Europe, most of the world, we're very into day, month, year. And that can get confusing. Yeah, everything's weird. So we're going to come on down and we've got an input tag, add an input tag with the type attribute of tag, an ID attribute of pick date, and a name attribute of date. We can do this. So input goes outside of form, doesn't it? Where do we usually put that? Oh, you know what? I'm all muddling. Well, where do we only change code below this line is where we put it. So input and the type is equal to date. Ooh, look at that. And we've gone day, month, year, after my own heart. We're going to set the ID here is equal to pick date. That's all chill as well. We're also going to set a name attribute of date. Yeah. I think that this might be okay. I think everything might be fine. Yeah? everything continues to be fine. I mean, the wider world, of course, everything's scary and weird and bad, but right here, just looking at little tiny bitty accessibility lessons, this isn't going to hurt us. Now, we're going to standardize times with the HTML5 date time attribute. So, oh gosh, you're not okay. I'm so sorry, my lovely. So input ID, pick date, name date, type date. I think so that looks right to me. Oh, you want me to do that? No, I'm not doing it twice. I'm very lazy. I'm the laziest. Or if you want to say it this way, I'm energy efficient. So we've got a time element as well, where it's like, cool, we've got a standardized way to talk about dates, which are better for folks using assistive technology to ingest. We've got time as well, and date time. And this is sort of a way to go ahead and let people know, here we've got Mortal Kombat, da 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 da. We've got a date hidden in here, don't we? And if I'm using assistive technology, or even if I just want some more context clues, this might be a little bit challenging to come out and find. So we're going to take a look at what this looks like. Here we've got time. So a tag that starts with time. I know the page forward button. Thank you, Teddy. Instead of me being a goofball. So we started a time element and then set the date time to what the date is. Yeah. Because here where it says last Wednesday in the example, last Wednesday, if I'm reading this 10 years from now, or if I'm a archaeologist in the far future reading this 1,000 years from now, I say, well, last Wednesday, I need a little more than that. So here we've got Thursday, September 15th, but we're going to go ahead and wrap that in so first we're going to say time. We're just letting the browser know, hey, we're going to start doing a thing with time. And let's close it as well, just to go ahead and keep ourselves honest. We've got date time. And now I'm going to say 2016. Whoa, which was ages ago now, wasn't it? 09, 15. I think that might be okay. Yeah. Oh, Michael's asking, any idea how to include time zones? So if you're doing stuff with maybe JavaScript, for example, you can do some things with using a library for time zones. There's a database that's sort of the very official international time zone database where they keep that wonderfully up to date. But that might be a little bit outside the scope of what we're doing now. So within semantic HTML, not something that jumps to head automatically. Sorry. But time zones are dreadful, aren't they? So here's something that's really interesting. What if I want, or what if we want to make something visible to someone who only to the people who are using a screen reader, to say, and I'd love to sort of brainstorm, when do we think this would be a good idea? Why might I want to say something or present an element only to people using a screen reader? Yeah, I think this is a really exciting question. And this is an open question. There might be a lot of different reasons for this, but can you think of any reasons we might do this? Yeah. So we can go ahead and hide this using CSS. So far, all the applied accessibility stuff, we've been doing HTML stuff, because really HTML5 is really, really good for accessibility compared to what we've had in the past. And this is going to be the first accessibility thing where we're using CSS to do it. And this is going to hide this from everybody who doesn't need it. We've got an example here to say, hey, you know what, maybe you've got information in a visual format like a chart, but you want to make a table of that information available to screen reader users. That is an incredibly good thing to do. That would be like a really nice and rad thing to do. Yeah. So CSS can be used to position the screen reader so that they're sort of outside your window. So most people can't see them. So screen reader only. Yeah. So this is another, so we've got a class called screen reader only. And here the position is absolute. Oh, how do I spell absolute? Morning grade. Look, we're just going to throw this so far off screen that you can't even deal with it. And you know what? This is a pixel. A little bitty thing. We're going to make it pixel tall. So that even if you do see it, you're just not going to see it. Even if you see it, you're not going to see it. So there's some other things we can do here. So here's they've been gentle by not putting this in red, but I'd put this in red to say, hey, just to let you know, here's some CSS approaches that will hide stuff, but it's not going to work for screen readers. So display none or visibility hidden, it will hide your content, but it'll hide your content for screen reader users too. Oh, and also 0 values for pixel size. So if you make it 0 pixels wide and 0 pixels tall, screen readers won't see it either. It's just gone. So we've given the position an absolute. It's going to stay where it is. We've moved it left by 10,000 pixels. So it's just like, if what you can see of me is our browser, it's over here. It's in my kitchen. And the width and height are both 1 pixel. They're just little bitty babies. And we've gone ahead and done those. Let's come on down and see if that's exactly what it wanted from us. Everything continues to be fine. So we're not just talking about screen reader users when we talk about accessibility. We could be talking about folks using keyboard only to navigate. We could be talking about folks using voice controls, and those semantic elements become really valuable. And we could also be talking about stuff that's good for everyone. Look at this. Oh, so wait, we've got to go. So why make it 1 pixel height and wait if you already can't see it? So if you made it a bit bigger, your browser's always trying to go and get the thing for you. If I made it really big, maybe my browser would give me the option to scroll all the way over. It's a really good question. So it's just the convention, and I'm not really sure, but I think it might be so that it's just such an inconsequential thing that we sort of ignore it. Oh, and Ekrol's saying, well, if we're meant to hide those elements, why are we still writing it out? So we've hidden the element only from sighted users. So the hidden elements are only being hidden visually. So they still exist on the page. So folks using screen readers or assistive technologies will still see them through their assistive technology. Yeah, it's kind of a weird conceptual thing to start to wobble with, isn't it? Wobble is not a real word, don't mind me. But we could also talk about contrast, and there are so many contrast pickers and contrast checkers on the web. So if you get on DuckDuckGo or Google or Bing or your web search of choice, and saying your web search of choice made more sense back in the 90s, didn't it? You could search for web contrast checker, and you'll find a bunch of stuff. And the web content accessibility guidelines, we heard about those last week, didn't we? From our guest speaker talking about the WCAG. Oof. Recommend a 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio for normal text. And that's just comparing how light or dark these are compared to each other. And look at this. I don't know about this, might just be my old lady eyes, but this light gray on white is absolutely not working for me. It is too light, and it's kind of stressing me out, making me try and read this. What we're going to do to pass this, and what I'm going to fuss at you about in your own websites, is that we want to make sure the contrast really pops. So we're going to change the color of the text, which we've got here, D3, 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 which I wonder if they just didn't type out because it's a fun sort of hex code to write out. And we're going to change it to 63, 63, 63. Oh, it's still gray. So the conceptual nature of it's got to be gray. It's important. Well, it's still gray, but it's a gray your users can see. We're going to run all our tests. Look at this. We're zipping all the way through. And at the end, if you all have any web development questions or questions about what you've been working on, we'll have some time to take a look at that. Ooh, woof. Look at this. So color is a big part of visual design, but it gives us a couple of different problems. First, you should never only use color when you're relaying important information. For example, screen reader users won't see it, but also folks who are colorblind aren't going to be able to see it. And you also may need to make sure that foreground and background colors have sufficient contrast so that so that colorblind users can distinguish them. So even if I'm not able to see a specific color or register a specific color, I still need that kind of contrast so that if I'm not able to see these colors, that the contrast alone makes them stick out from each other. So we're coming all the way to, and I'm not trying to suggest you should just skip this. This is really important information talking about how really some of it saying, you know what, some colorblind users have a challenging time distinguishing hues from each other, but sometimes lightness can be a challenge as well. So that means sticking to this contrast ratio can be really, really important. So we're going to come all the way down here. So right now we've got a 2.5 to 1 contrast ratio, and that's not enough. Like we wanted 4.5 to 1 at least. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the lightness here. We're to take the background color lightness, we're to change it from 35 to 55. And if you remember, when we go over 50 on this, we're mixing in more black. Wait, white? Hang on, let me check. Hey, we're mixing in more white. See, this is why you should never listen to me. Okay. Yep. So more than 50%, you start to mix in more white. Less than 50%, you start to mix in more black. I'm just getting it backwards on a Monday morning. And then we're going to go ahead and take the color value and we're going to change the lightness from 20 to 15. So we're going to mix in a little bit less black. More black? More black. More black. And then we're going to run our test because this pops up. Don't be sorry. It's fine. You could show up anytime. We're going to come on to the next challenge. And now we're going to avoid colorblindness issues by choosing colors that convey information. And there's a bunch of different types of color blindness, and reading about this, you know what might be, I was going to say if I was the boss of all of you, but I in a very distant, very gentle way, boss you around. Reading a little bit about color blindness might be really valuable to better understand this. And remember when we had our guest speaker last week, and we learned that empathy is sort of one of the best ways to be a better developer. Reading more about color blindness and oh gosh, what are the most common kinds of color blindness? Who's most impacted might be really useful here. So if we've got two different kinds of greens next to each other and red-green color blindness, oh gosh, you know what? It says that I've typed that in, but that is my brilliant colleague, Mervyn, going ahead and giving you all the wiki for that. Thank you, Mervyn. Such an absolute prince. So for example, using two different greens would be a jerk move because a colorblind user might not be able to distinguish them. And close colors, so colors that are a neighbor on the color wheel, like reddy orange and orangey red, would also kind of be a jerk move. So you want to avoid them when you're relaying important information. There are some online color picking tools that show you simulations of how these colors will appear. Hang on just a second. I'll get to that question in a heartbeat. But some of the color picking tools will show you how these would appear to folks with different types of color blindness. And these are super cool. So how do we set the color of the border of the button? So we would do that by, remember when we were talking about borders in CSS? That's going to be really similar. Yeah. Oh, Monica, I have to confess that I haven't really, I've got my books behind me, so I look like a much more complete reader than I am. I've really stuck with online resources. So I'd start with the Wikipedia and have a poke around. Also, taking a look at what kind of resources specifically exist for web developers, and developers might be really good. So here we've got green and yellow, and I'm no kinds of colorblind, and that's hard, isn't it? That is, oof, that is hard to see. It's going to be really challenging for folks with any kind of color blindness. We think that this is important. So the actual thing this button says, if you can't see it, is delete internet. That's an important button. We're going to go ahead and change the color here to a dark blue to make sure that folks who do want to delete their internet, and again, I don't really know what that would mean, really understand what they're being presented with. Danger, delete internet. You know what? I'm not going to be pushing that button, am I? We're going to run our tests. We're going to go on to the next challenge. So somebody asked this around alt text a while ago saying, hey, how can I give more? And I loved this question last week. I can't tell if it was you all or Tuesday who asked, oh, how can I make my links more descriptive? And that's a really good question. Because one of the options for screen reader users another option is to hear all of the links available on a page. And if you say, click here, if I'm a screen reader user and I'm coming through and I'm like, oh, your link options on this page are click here, more information. I'm like, that's not helpful. That's not great. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to change it. So instead of click here and the links there, but more information about batteries. Yeah. We're to wrap our anchor tag around more information around batteries because we think that this is really what's going on here. Because I'm lazy, I'm going to control X. And what are we wrapping this around? Information about batteries. I'm going to paste, control V, and I'm going to cut, control X. I'm going to paste. And now our link, it's the same link. You may notice it's set to an empty string, so it's not going anywhere yet. But now it's set to information about batteries. Super chill. We've got this. And this way, if somebody is using a screen reader to look at all the links, hey, more information about batteries gives me a lot more context than click here. Look at this. I'm not excited to see you all go, but I am excited to see us move through this coursework so quickly. So we're going to make links navigable. It's the first time I've ever said that without tripping over it. With HTML access keys. So the access key attribute can specify a shortcut key to activate or focus to an element. When you add an access key element, you can make navigation more efficient for keyboard-only users. And this is really exciting. We've been talking a lot about folks who primarily use screen readers, or folks who have contrast issues, or folks who are colorblind. But many of your users will for either reasons linked to permanent disability, temporary situations, or even personal preference, will be keyboard only users. So this is really, really important. Hang on just a second. So making sure that not only everybody can see or conceptually see here your site, you also want to make sure that everybody can noodle around, everybody can bop along. Yeah. So here's an example. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this example because I think this is pretty important. We're just going to throw it someplace. So we've got a button here, and the access key is B. So I say, hey, if you want to jump right to this button, the access key is B. Yeah. All right. Cool. So we're going to set an access key attribute to both links. We're going to set the first one to G. So it'll look just like this. So instead of button, there'll be the A ref. We'll say access key G. Yeah. Or access key C. Let's get rid of this one because they didn't really order this one, did they? Where is lasagna? So here we can come in, we can put it anywhere we want. We're going to say access key is equal to G for Garfield. Yeah. I'll chill. We're going to come down a little bit. We've got Chuck Norris. And now we're going to search for access key. We're going to make that C. So folks using the screen reader can go ahead and pop. Oh, not the screen reader. Folks using, I've said screen reader too many times in a day and it's stuck in my brain, isn't it? For folks using the keyboard only, they can use it to just go ahead and skip to what they care about. And that seems pretty cool. We're going to run our tests. Look at this. So we're going to come down and we're going to use a tab index to add a keyboard focus element. I think folks who are keyboard only are usually going to be pretty good on this. This is such a good one. Access key will also work with a screen reader. So you don't have to be using a screen reader for access key to be useful. So I, as somebody who's not using a screen reader, could benefit from it as well by just being able to skip around based on that. Yeah, so the free code camp environment, it works just fine in there as well. Yeah. So we're going to use tab index, and it's got 3 different things it does. When it's on a tag, it means that we're focused on that element. So we're paying attention to that. The value determines the behavior. So it can be positive, negative, or 0. Oof. Certain elements such as links and form controls automatically receive keyboard focus when the user tabs through a page. And you say, what does it mean when a user tabs through a page? If you've got this open, well, I mean, not here because a tab will give us a lot of space. But if you go to Free Code Camp yourself, tab, look at this. When I push tab, it highlighted this top link. Yeah. And I continue to tap. It's giving me the second link. So this is the browser automatically focusing on these elements that receive autofocus. Yeah. So those are things like links and form controls automatically get focus when you tab through them. So what we're doing by adding this tab index element is we're saying, hey, we want to give a keyboard only user or a primary keyboard user the ability to focus on elements that don't automatically get keyboard focus by tabbing. And that could be a div or a span or a paragraph. And you can make those focusable by placing a tab index of 0 attribute on them. Let's go ahead and copy this and see what this feels like. Where are we going to put this? Right here. I need keyboard focus. Here, if I start in here, I can tab to, let's put it at the bottom so we actually are able to tab to it. You are absolutely right. So when we're over here, when we tab, we're auto-focusing on these form elements. These are things where the browser says, hey, I think you want to focus on these. But submit. Now we're also able to focus on this div because we've added a tab index 0 to make it so that we're able to tab focus on it. Does that feel okay? Does that sound like a weird explanation? A negative tab index usually means that the element is focusable but not reachable by keyboard. So that's used when you want to bring focus to a content programmatically, like when a pop-up window. And we're going to really talk about a negative tab index. But what we do have is tab index 0 is going to make it so you can focus on something. I think a positive tab index is probably going to remove the focus from a autofocusable one. Cool. So we're going to add tab index attribute to the p tag and set its value to 0. Ready? Take a deep breath because we're going all the way up. Ooh, access key will be activated by using Control, Alt, and key on a Firefox Mac. As a Firefox Mac user, this is very relevant for me. We're coming all the way up. Take a deep breath. Oh, it's just dizzying. To the paragraph tag, and I think that's for our instructions. And we're going to turn. We're not going to change the element, but we're going to add a tab index. Oh, do I need quotation marks there? Yes, of 0. And this means now when I start at the top of the page, I can also focus on the instructions. Cool. That's made that very bright yellow for me. That's very exciting. Does that feel all right? Ooh, I bet we've just got maybe one more, maybe two more. Then I will joyously chit chat and answer all your questions. So we can also use the tab index to specify the order of keyboard focus for several elements. So tab index 1, I was wrong about tab index. I'm wrong all the time. Tab index 1 will bring the keyboard focus to that element first. Tab index 2 will bring it second. Tab index 3 will do that third, before defaulting to the tab index 0 items. I was super wrong about what these positives do, and I'm sorry. So when the tab order is set this way, it overwrites the default. So that's really important. So right now, the tab order, well, what do you think the tab order is going to look like if I start over here and start tabbing through the elements that already automatically have tab focus? So it's not going to do, I've got those links automatically tab focus, search automatically tab focuses, submit as well. And that's it. We have an existing flow here that we're going from the first link to the second link to the third link. And we've got the potential to break that using tab index 1, 2, 3, 4. We probably don't actually want to break that most of the time because it's going to be weird for our users if we break it. If I'm a keyboard only user and I'm saying, oh, well, I want that second link, I know I need to push tab twice. If you've changed the tab index order in a way that overrides that, I'm probably going to be low-key annoyed. I may be more than low-key annoyed. So what we're going to do is we're going to want the search input and the submit form buttons to be the first two items in the tab order. Okay. So the search input, we will add a tab index of 1 and this. So here, this little box right here, we're going to add a tab index of 1. We think our users want to go to that first. And then our submit button right here, we're going to give it a tab index of 2. And then afterwards, it'll go through and visit those links. Yeah. Where is that? Search. Submit. And we can put this anywhere in the values we want. Tab index equals 2. And now when we come over here, and I start to tab, we tab directly to the search the very first time. I can't tell if you can see that little tiny highlight because it's just a bitty thing. And then when we tabs again, we get right to submit, and then we hit home, blog, and training. So we've changed our order. Yeah. And think really critically about when you do this because you're going to be changing what people's sort of expected behavior might look like. We're going to run our tests, and we are done with the accessibility lessons. This was super fast, wasn't it? I'm going to go ahead and preview what we're going to be looking at next week and chat to you about our guest session on Wednesday. But if you have any questions at all, please, please, please let me know. It's really nice to donate to Free Code Camp if you can. It's a rad thing to do. So, we're going to be talking about responsive web design next time. And responsive web design is this idea that when you're designing for the web, you're making documents. Yeah? Okay, yeah. But you're making documents that don't apply to one paper size. If you think, oh, those A4 papers are a single notebook, that's not what we're doing here. We're creating something that works as well on your phone. I got a new phone. Oh, heck, those are a lot of calls, aren't they? Oh, no. As it does on a big monitor or a little tiny screen. Responsive web design is really about making, and I know you're not supposed to use a word in a definition of itself, yourself. But it's really making websites that respond to what different people are using and what they're yeah, Tanya, using tab is useful as heck, isn't it? Like sometimes you just don't want to fuss with your mouse. I know a lot of very deadly serious programmers who are primarily on their keyboards just because they find it a bit distracting to mess with their mouse. If you could hear the loud clicking in the background, it's not me, is it? Fabulous. So this is the kind of stuff we'll be looking at next week. So we are HTML is done, CSS is done, applied visual design is done, applied accessibility is done. And then we're going to come into these responsive web design principles. And this is going to be really important for screen sizes, screen orientation. So it's not just your size. If I take my phone and I flip it upways, what is the way normal people say upways? If I flip it vertically, it's going to display a website in one way. What happens when I flip it horizontally? Yeah, making that responsive there. And different resolutions as well. After we do that, we've just got a Flexbox and Grid and your projects. If you haven't started your projects already, we're going to be asking you to do these individually, so on your own. But you've got a lot of the skills to be doing all of these already. You're going to have the instructions. So this is for a tribute page to say, hey, my tribute page should have an element with a corresponding ID main that contains all the other elements. I should see an element with a corresponding ID title, which contains a string. So all of these can be really, really fun. You've got the skills to be working on these right now. So that might be a really nice thing to do with your extra time, because this was a nice short session, is start looking at these. Your homework for next week is to try and do at least 50% of the responsive web design principles. Look at them. There are four of them. It's okay. The projects look really, really scary, but it's genuinely just taking the skills you've already learned and applying them to a blank page. Of course that feels scary, and of course it feels bad. But I bet you're going to be chuckling to yourself oh, I know how to do that. Oh, I'm great. Because Monica, you are great. You ask the best questions and you're so interesting. And you're going to do a fantastic job with these, I bet. You may also want to get into the forums and get some study buddies in there. Yeah. And say, oh, hey, who wants to work on this together? That's where the forum is. Ooh. Tanya's recommending the book, The Interaction of Colors by Yosef Al. That's just oh no, you have not sold me a book. I'm gonna be so grumpy. Oh no, this looks fantastic. Interaction of color. That sounds beautiful. Thank you very much, Tanya. So, we're going to have another speaker joining us on Wednesday, and that's going to be Ashley. Ashley's going to come and talk to us about not just accessible. Oh, thank you so much. Ashley is just so smart and so interesting. And Ashley is going to be showing us how accessible writing works. Yeah. Oh, so the survey project has validation requirements. Monica's got a great question. And they're not in the. So let's take a look at that together. Okay, cool. So if I enter an email that's not formatted correctly, I'll see an HTML5 validation error. Do you know what? It might make a lot of sense to do these together. Get a hint. I'm really not terribly sure. Let me go ahead and have a look at that and chat to you all about it next week if that's not a bother. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my to-do list right now. Just real angry typing. But no, I think it would be very unusual if it was asking us for this and didn't give us the information along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't find the lesson that's highlighted in or a little bit more information about it. Yeah, sorry that that's not very satisfying. I was like, oh, I'll go get that. That's chill. Does anybody have any questions about anything else at all? And is there anything I can help y'all with? Oh gosh, your homework. Sorry. Your homework is to get at least 50% of the way through responsive web design principles. So those first two, which are big chunky ones. And then I'm going to ask you to go ahead and take a look at the projects and start one of them if you haven't already. If you have started one project, see how far you can get through it. It'd be really exciting to see if we can get those wrapped up. Yeah. Any other questions at all? No, don't wait for me. We will go through those in the session, but go ahead and do them. It's so much more useful if this is a review versus if this is if this is like doing it at the same time. You'll learn way more. Oh, so most are saying, I can't find a way to use tab to navigate a web page. I couldn't reach the 3 nav menus you selected in the second to last session. Are you in the hang on. I'm trying to describe something instead of showing it to you. Are we talking about this one? Oh, Monica, this is such a great question. What can we do to help make JavaScript in January a reality? Don't worry about it. We will be chatting to you about stuff soon. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what the most useful thing you can do is on the forum? Let us know what works and what doesn't, and what you'd love to see more of and less of. Really, that's the most useful thing. Say, oh, I want these lessons to go faster. Oh, you know what? It would be nicer if we had just one big group session a week instead of multiple sessions. Oh, it might be nice to have. Yeah, let us know. The most useful thing you can do if it's not a bother is to just go ahead and let us know what's useful for you. I do confess that I'm going to be starting to do some streaming on JavaScript lessons over on Twitch just to practice them again, just in case we do January. So I'll be doing that over winter break, but I'm going to be doing that at times that might not be useful for everybody. So I'll be doing some individual streaming over, and not as part of a formal boot camp, over winter break if that's useful and you absolutely can't wait. But there's no worries around that. So if we come here, okay, so I get what the issue is. So once we do what we're supposed to, what were we supposed to do? I can't hold a thing in my head. So once we add, oh, I know what the problem is. So we're saying that when you come in here, you've got this one. You're able to highlight search with tab. You're able to highlight submit with tab. What happens if you press tab a third time? Does that go ahead and get you? That should get you to home, blog, and training once you hit tab a third time. Does that not work for you? Yeah. One thing that can be really difficult in is making sure that your cursor is on the far right. Oh, wait, I'm reversed. Is on this far right hand side one, so that you're tabbing through this and not tabbing through the instructions. It won't. Okay. Weird. Exciting. Not weird like you're doing something wrong, but weird like cool, weird. Um, Melissa, what if it's not rude, can I ask what browser you're on? And in that case, is it fixed if we say, oh, heck. If you add tab index equals 0 to the links, does that fix it? So if you add tab index 0 here, oh heck, and here, does that fix the problem? I love this weird troubleshooting. Yeah. A lot of you are saying that more Saturday sessions would be useful. Thank you. That is really, really good feedback. I know it's reasonably challenging to get a Saturday free. I do apologize. Yeah, go ahead and see if adding tab index 0 works. Otherwise, it might just be your, ooh, and shift and tabs backwards, platypus, after my own heart. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm doing it, but I believe you. I'm doing it to shift and tabs backwards. I've never done that in my long life. Fabulous. If there are no other questions, and if I can like gently send you to if I can gently send you to the forum with any feedback you've got, please do let us know if you have anything I can help you with. I'm going to go ahead and let you have a really, this still doesn't work. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's just a weird browser thing. It's stressful that it doesn't work, but it's no big deal. And it's really easy for me to say, well, that's weird, but it's a tutorial environment, so we can ignore it for right now. You know what? Yeah. If you want it, we will work through the Flexbox and Grid together. I confess I'm terrible at both Flexbox and Grid. So you're welcome to join me. Or if you're in another class where the class assistant is better than me, you can just ignore mine. Fabulous. I will let you go to have a very easy afternoon, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cool. I'll let you go. Bye.